I'm afraid we're not going to find it again. All right, Byron, he has left Chitwa Dam and is now looking at something quite rare.
James, they are incredibly rare. They're just off to the right. Can you see them through there? They're very rare impala antelope. Now, we are obviously joking. There are plenty of impala around this area. There are some other antelope that have just moved off, and I'm trying to see if I can see them. Unfortunately, they've moved off into the thicket. James was... Oh, there they are. There we go. So we found some nyala, the female nyala, and the impala with them. Now try say that 5 times fast. Nyala, impala, nyala, impala, nyala, impala. And it looks like just a group of females with some youngsters that are moving through that area. I find them very beautiful. I really enjoy seeing them nyala. Andy and Julia, all the way from Los Angeles. Hello. I hope you had a wonderful day. You're probably finishing off your day at the moment. Andy and Julia, you asked if I can show and explain the differences between these antelope. Well, that's lovely. You can see the impala and the nyala very clearly in that picture, in that frame. Now you can see the impala do not have the white stripes like the nyala have. You can see those very prominent white stripes on the nyala. There they go. And that's the impala that is uniform brown, slightly lighter brown underneath. And black markings on the rump. They don't have those white stripes. I'm going to show you in the book quickly too. There we go. Okay. So is it alright, Craig, if I hold it there? There we go. So that's the impala at the bottom. These two over there. There's the impala. So the male and the female. Now, do you see how they're uniform brown at the top, a slightly lighter coloration on the belly, and then white underneath? But they've got those very prominent black markings on the rump over there too. They're also slightly smaller than the nyala. Let me just find the nyala quickly. Sorry, Craigie. There we go. So we saw the nyala ewes, the nyala females. Yeah, they are over there. Just listen to the sound, everyone. I wonder if you can hear it. Hear those impala making all that noise. That's a rutting season at the moment. The males are trying to mate with the females. Sorry, lost track there for a second. But here are the female nyala. You see very clear white stripes all the way down the body. They're slightly bigger than the impala. And then look at the male nyala. Completely different. Very dark coat, but also those very prominent white stripes down the body. And much larger than the female. And they look like a completely different species, don't they? But that's a male and that's a female. Interesting thing is when the males are born, when the youngsters, they're the same color as the females, and then the older they get, they then turn this beautiful grey coloration and get those long, thick coats. So I hope that answers your question about the difference between those two antelope. Now, I thought I heard some baboons calling in the distance. I'm going to stop and listen here for a while. Let's head to Jamie, who's got a bird she'd like to show you.
A bird that is doing exactly what the steenbok was doing a little bit earlier, and warming up in the morning sun. Not just any bird, it is in fact a very young dove, and I'm guessing that it is a baby laughing dove. Well, not quite baby. It's obviously fledged and it can fly, but we've been seeing lots of them in the road recently. Lots and lots and lots of just fledged dove chicks that are at the point where they can fly, but they do so with a degree of reluctance, especially with soaking wet feathers, because you'll probably find they still have a little bit of down on them. They haven't fully developed the covering of adult feathers that will be essentially not quite waterproof, but certainly more waterproof than downy feathers. And you can see this chick busy grooming and realigning its feathers, spreading the preen oil where it's been washed away. And this is now the third one I've seen, or fourth one actually, that I've seen in the last week. I know Brent saw one on his last drive on Djuma, on Cheetah Plains. So it seems as though they've managed to have one more generation just before the end of their breeding season. Most of the birds out here, apart from a couple of the raptor species and some of the sand grouse as well, most of the birds out here will breed in our in our summer months, during the rainy season, when there's plenty of food available. So this dove chick can fly, I'm almost certain of it, but it so far has decided to stick around, and actually seems to prefer, when we first arrived, running on the ground rather than actually flying and taking wing. Yes, sort out those feathers, just in case it decides to rain again. Now, a pack of animals, sorry, I haven't been entirely clear here. You want to know if it is a newborn. It's not. Doves, like quite a few of our bird species out here, their chicks hatch altricial. And what that means is that they actually hatch quite underdeveloped, small, almost naked, with a very, very fine covering of feathers, in their little cup-shaped nests that are hidden off in the trees. And that applies to most of the passerines, that they will have tiny, tiny little chicks that hatch altricial, underdeveloped. There are certain bird species where that isn't the case, and the chicks actually hatch quite precocial. They're still different to the adults, they're still much fluffier, but ground nesting birds, things like lapwings or coursers, duckops, what are the ones that we saw? The little three-banded plovers that we saw at Chitwa Dam. I wonder if Byron saw them while he was there. Didn't mention anything about it, but they were very, very difficult to spot, and they kept disappearing under mum. This dove, I would guess, is... it's a guess, I'm throwing it out there. I don't know how long it takes little dove chicks to fledge. I would put it at maybe 3 weeks old, maybe 4. Maybe those of you out there with Google can tell me exactly how long it takes a dove chick to fledge. I should know this. I once found my wildlife journal from clearly when I had just learned how to write, because the spelling was atrocious. Things haven't changed much, have they? But when I was a small child, I kept a wildlife journal. I found a dove's nest, and every day I did a journal entry as to the development of the chick, and some of the entries were absolutely hilarious. I spoke about the covering of feathers and so on, and then from there I put in breathing rate is normal, as if I had any idea what a normal breathing rate is for a dove chick. And I kept it right up until day 8, I think, and then obviously ran out of steam, or most likely actually probably went back to school. I suspect it was during my summer holidays. I must actually find that. I wonder where it is. It'd be hilarious for you all to see. You just have to excuse my spelling. I was probably around about 6 years old. All right, little dove chick. We're going to leave you to your sunbathing and continue the search for a non-existent lion. I'm starting to believe I imagined it. Ghost roars in my head. I think James has been very brave this morning. There's just so many critters in the tent, and I think he's found another one.
I have. I'm just enjoying the summer grass in the sun at the moment, though. But up here, we have found further chrysalises of acrias. And of course the acrias have been all around here because the Waltheria bushes have been all around here for much of the summer. And now the chrysalises have found places to hang, because they like to hang like that on some kind of horizontal surface, and that's what they're doing. And we had one, I picked one up and put it in the tent the other day. It was on the back of or on the underside of a leaf, and it's hatched. It's gone off and flown out, and it might actually be this one over here. What do you think, David? Do you think this is the very one?
Maybe.
We're having a bit of a butterfly bonanza here. Now, what I would like you to look at here as we look at this acrea is the abdomen. Can you see it here, Dave?
Yep.
Now, the abdomen is actually quite a similar, it has the same similar patterning to the chrysalis, which I think is quite amazing. Isn't that lovely? It's just turned into the most glorious morning. There's a very gentle breeze. The birds are singing. The moisture is giving off a wonderful scent from the ground. And the acrea is flying around my face. Very good. Now, we were talking about the Waltheria plants, and here is one here. I'm not going to go into any further nonsense about the biology of them, but what's interesting is that they are still around, and of course they have been around for some time. They've been around since probably the beginning of summer, and they've been a very valuable source of food for many things. But of course many plants have now finished, and if we come over this way, there was one that was around the tent for much of January and February, and that was a plant called Crotalaria spherocarpa, or the wild lucerne. And here's a slightly better example. Here it is here. And you can see that it's gone completely to seed. Here are the seeds. And this plant is now pretty much dead. There are lots of examples of this one's actually quite alive, but there are lots of examples of it dead completely, and I think they're annuals. So I think that these seeds will go into the soil bed or into the seed bed in the soil. This plant will pass on to Crotalaria heaven, wherever that happens to be, and then it will only come to life again through its offspring in spring. And I just think that's quite interesting. I think that's quite an I guess it's people have been thinking about this for many, many millennia since we've been able to think, actually. But the sort of whole, one hesitates to use circle of life, but passing of the seasons, if you like, and how that makes us feel. And certainly when I look at plants like this that I know are going to sort of die and wither and leave their offspring in the soil, I feel a certain sense of summer nostalgia. Don't you, David? Yes, David does as well, everybody. Now, Rachel, you ask a very good question, and it's a fascinating evolutionary arms race that we're going to just have a little chat about now. You say, doesn't that orange colour make it easier for the prey to see? It does, and they are orange specifically to make their potential prey, predator species see them, and it's a warning. I can hear the ground hornbills calling. Hoodoo, hoodoo. So it's a warning to predators that they are toxic. It's called aposematic coloration, and it has evolved over, obviously, many millions of years. The most obvious example is that of the monarch butterfly, which picks up cardioglycosides from a plant called a milkweed, or similar plants that have produced a sort of milky latex that have cardioglycosides in them. But the acreas were feeding on that Waltheria plant that I showed you earlier, which sequesters hydrogen cyanide, and that is why they are that orange color. It's to say to predators, yeah, come and eat me, but you're going to be either very nauseous thereafter, or possibly even die. So that's why they are that bright orange colour, which I think is quite interesting. Now, tormented zombie owl, I'm not sure. I'll try and get David to eat one. You want to know if those butterflies are toxic to human beings. What I'll do is sort of take one of these ropes out of the tent. I'll tie David down and make him eat one and see what he thinks about whether they're toxic or not. I don't know. I imagine that the amount of toxins in the, in the butterfly are probably too small to affect a human being, someone of our mass. And the reason I say that is because to make the toxin is obviously physiologically expensive, it's metabolically expensive, so you don't want to make more than you absolutely have to. And so to make things for animals or potential predators our size would be a waste, because of course their main predators are animals much smaller than us, and those are birds. I don't know if you probably can't hear them, but it sounds like a booming choir singing in the distance there. And that's the call of the 7 ground hornbills I think you saw earlier with Jamie, talking to each other. The whole flock is obviously spread out as they fed, and they're now talking to each other, and this beautiful booming call is coming up over the ridge, which unfortunately you cannot hear. Now apparently Jamie has managed to find another thing with an impossibly difficult plural.
An impossible, difficult, what, Meg? I'm confused, I'm sorry. Oh, an impossible, difficult plural. Ah, an impossible, difficult plural. Yes, the mongooses. The mongoose. Or is it just mongoose? These are the questions that plague us. Apparently the official answer is you can actually use mongoose, but it doesn't sound particularly good. But mongooses, we've got a whole load of mongooses, and look at that. One of them's just deposited a scent mark. Oh, and when you anal paste on a log, what could be better than then rubbing your cheek in it? Scent marking 101. Byron says they're mongoose. I still just prefer talking about them as just generic dwarf mongoose. Either way, James has been talking about this beautiful morning, and it is a beautiful morning, and we spoke about the possibility of animals coming out to warm themselves up, and that's exactly what the dwarf mongoose are doing. That's why I've stopped where I have, so that they can take full advantage of the patches of sun. Luckily they have each other to cuddle with. Oh, there we go, he's going to anal paste on top. Here we go. Very, very standard behavior. So as soon as one anal pastes, if another comes and smells it, they will anal paste on top of that. It's a way of marking their territory. And they do have territories, tiny little sort of roughly hectare to 10 hectare size territories. So a hectare is about a football field, give or take. About 10 football fields would be the maximum size of a dwarf mongoose territory, depending on the number of dwarf mongoose in an area. There we go. More anal pasting on that particular log. Seems a poor choice of territorial marker, given that it's right in the middle of the road and is probably not likely to stay there. Look at that. Immediately alert to the call of the go-away bird, and one of the youngest ones rushing back to the adults just to see if they should be... Oh, what a big stretch! To see if they should be concerned. Well, apparently they didn't like that. Well, by then, what have they seen that I haven't? Or was that just my high-pitched noise that I made? Anything in the skies? Nope. Okay. Well, by then, there were some in there as well. They'll come back out. They will come back out. We just have to sit patiently and wait. While I sit patiently and wait for at least one dwarf mongoose, let's go over to Byron so that he can tell you about the plural of mongooses.
The plural of mongoose, Jamie, as you all know, is mongoosei. No, I'm only joking. It's mongooses. It's mongooses. I tried to catch the final control to see if she would maybe give James the update that Jamie's sitting with mongoosei. That would have been quite funny, because he probably would have shouted at her over the radio saying it is incorrect. We'll have to test him. Maybe if he's listening now. If you're listening, hi James in the tent. Hope you're learning a lot from our drives. We're not seeing anything or finding anything just yet. Someone else said they heard lions calling in this area, and I'm desperate. I'm desperately trying to find them, and I'm listening and stopping every now and then, but I haven't heard anything. Now, I did hear of people that, or the other guides found some lions, but further west of us. So someone did say they heard lions. It sounded like from this area, but no tracks. We haven't seen any tracks yet. So I'm hoping they decide to call again. But for the moment, it's quiet. Very, very quiet. Just a white-browed scrub robin calling in the distance. James's favourite bird. He loves hearing that white-browed scrub robin. No, nothing yet. But it's still early, everyone, and it's not hot at all. It's still quite cool. So I'm thinking that there's still a good chance we could get a predator moving around. Any animals, for that matter. Costa V, I'm just trying to think now. Not all animals alarm call. It's mostly the herbivores. Trying to think, but I suppose all animals have a distress call. I suppose you could refer to it as a distress call more so than an alarm call. Now I'm just trying to work out where I am exactly. So Costa V, if I think of the antelope, they've all got a type of alarm call, most of them. So the Tragelaphus or Tragelaphus, however you would like to pronounce it, family of antelope, the nyala, the bushbuck and the kudu, they've all got a very prominent loud bark, that bah, bah, if they see any predator. Some of the impala, we know they do that snorting sound. And the bongo and the eland too, they also, yes, that's right, thank you, James. James mentioned the bongo and the eland. Now, I've never seen a bongo. I think they're up in Zambia, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, higher, Congo and Rwanda. James, where are the bongo exactly? Where do they occur? We'll ask James in the tent. And then the impala give that snorting sound. There we go, rainforest in the Congo Basin. Sure, I was right. That was close. So I'd love to see a bongo. It's like an oversized nyala, very, very big nyala. And then, hang on, what tracks are these? Hyena tracks. We're not looking for hyena at the moment. That was probably from last night. Then some of the look at that little guy trying to enjoy the sun. Beautiful tree squirrel in a torchwood, and he is warming up in the sun. Now this is also a that gives an alarm call, the squirrel, high-pitched chattering sound, so they also do alarm call. Now another little animal that does give an alarm call too is the little dwarf mongoose that Jamie has.
The cool thing about their alarm calls is actually the number of different alarm calls that they make. And each one means something different. It could mean, watch out, there's a leopard, run into underneath some cover or into a hole. It could mean, watch out, there's a bird, look to the skies, and then run away into a bolt hole. Or it could mean, these drongos are having such a fight. There's about 10 of them. Let's not exaggerate. There's about 10 of them having such a fight. And Senzo can't see them at the moment. I can only hear them. What on earth has got... Sorry. Let's just go backwards a little bit. Let's see what's going on. We've seen Drongo fight very savagely in the past. They're all in that tree at the back there, Sens. I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, there they are. We've seen fork-tailed drongos have a really serious confrontation. Oh, and I think that's them gone. Something's got them. Yes, that's exactly what it was. Lou's right. It was a drongo death match. For some reason, I cannot remember why, but Brent, James, and myself were all out on bushwalk. I can't even remember why that was, but we stopped and we saw this incredible drongo fight, where it was the one had grabbed hold of the other by the bill and was gripping it so tightly that we actually thought the one that was being attacked might actually not make it. They did actually, I think if I remember correctly, they did eventually disconnect and the one flew off. But they can be very, very aggressive little birds. Which actually brings me to my next point and ties in quite neatly with what we were talking about with alarm calls. I was talking about the different alarm calls that dwarf mongoose have, like meerkats, which are famous for having the different ones, and some of them could mean something like, hey, there's a snake, you've all got to come here and mob it, or go and save the babies, whatever else their communication means. But the famous story of the fork-tailed drongos in the Kalahari is that they've learnt what the different alarm calls mean from meerkats. So they've learned to imitate the one that means drop everything and run. And they wait patiently, and they only really do it during tough times, when there's not that much food around. But they'll wait patiently till a dwarf mongoose has dug up something nice and juicy, like a scorpion or a grub, and then they give that alarm call. The meerkat drops it, off it goes into its burrow, and then the drongo swoops down and steals it. Both ingenious and quite mean. Now, Rick, you want to know if mongoose are related to meerkats? They are. I mean, they essentially evolved to fill the same ecological niche. They are a different genus, so in the way that something like, for example, a cheetah and a leopard are in different genuses due to certain physiological differences. If I remember correctly, let me think now, I've just gone blank on the meerkat genus. It'll come to me. It will come to me. But they're all herpestids, so they're part of the same family. Now, they're closely enough connected that they are essentially part of the same grouping. Initially, mongoose weren't even considered to be in their own family. They were put together, lumped together with the genets and everything else in the viverrid family. And then, after much debate, as there always is with taxonomic classification of an animal, eventually it came to the conclusion that they belonged in their own separate family. Now, they're essentially the same, structured in a very similar way. They operate in a very similar way. A small mongoose-like thing that wanders around hunting insects. It's just that meerkat are more geared towards an arid area, which is why we don't find them here, the desert areas, and we get the mongoose here in the slightly wetter areas. All of our mongoose have disappeared in light of that drongo fight. I think they thought it was something scary. We'll continue on searching for this non-existent lion, and while we do, James is still battling off the various insects and arachnids of the tent.
I certainly am, absolutely battling off the various insects and arachnids of the tent. I'm not battling them off, I'm quite pleased to have them with us. And it's a great indicator, of course, of how nature will always take over. There is not a violin spider, a daddy long-legged spider. She's in the corner there. She, of course, is not alone. She's totally harmless, by the way. She's not alone. She has a firm friend over here. There we go. Very nice little friend. Then, even more impressive, especially as I have managed to disturb this creature as I opened the window this morning, there is a little lizard. Do you see the lizard, David? Now, isn't this wonderful? And just a brilliant example of how nature eventually reclaims what human beings place in it or her. And I think that is a stripe-bellied skink, a junior stripe-bellied skink. Is that what you are? Come out a little bit, come on. Come on. There you go. You're most welcome here, by the way, Mr. Striped-bellied skink, if that's what you are. Don't drop your tail. You keep it there. So that's another thing. We'll leave him there very comfortably. And he, of course, might come down here and forage for what we have over there. And this is another spider. I don't know which spider it is. I will do some further research. You see that? And of course that does mean that when I come in here and open up the tent in the darkness, you know, I've handed my torch to David so that he can plug everything in. I'm going to think twice about doing that next time. I think I'd probably rather Dave put his hand into a nest of proverbial vipers than do it myself, really. And then what I wanted to show you was that, remember the spider we looked at in the top of the grass stalk? This is a different one, and I don't actually think there is a spider in here. There's an old spider's web. It was a jumping spider, I think. I'm pretty sure that that's what it was. That's where they tend to create their little nests, in the sort of crow's nest, if you like, of a grass stalk. Oh, look at this. I think those are the husks of either prey or little spiderlings, maybe. No, I think that's prey. And I'm pretty sure that this used to be the residence, excuse me everybody, the residence of a jumping spider. Isn't that cool? Yeah, and you can just see bits and pieces of legs, chitin, there's a fly in there, definitely. This is the rather dirty residence of a jumping spider that used to live here and left all of his mess. Quite disgusting. I think that's brilliant. Anyway, that's what's in the top of this grass stalk. Isn't that nice? Now, Byron is having a break. And Byron, of course, has not realized that Mongoose is not a word, but Mongai, that might be a word for him to consider while sipping on his morning beverage.
Well, James, Mongoose sounds funny to me, so I'll stick with it. But no, it's not a word. I know that, everyone. But what we have decided to do is it's that time of the morning, I think, where we need to have a break. But this morning it's a bit different, and I'm going to jump out. Well, because I've got Batman with me. Now, Batman's quite fussy, so he doesn't drink coffee. He drinks tea. So I made some tea in my flask this morning. Now, James, you don't have a flask like this in your tent, do you? See, you it's a rookie. James is still learning. Shame. He needs to walk to the kitchen, possibly. I wonder if he's had a cup of tea or coffee yet. Craig, shall we try this tea? Craig also brought the biggest mug known to man, so he can empty the flask with it. But I must be honest, it is good to stop like this and listen, because you never know. We could hear those lions again. We could hear something calling there. We go, Craig. And those of you at home, hope you've got your tea ready, or your coffee, or whatever it is you're drinking around this time of the day, wherever you are. And I always say that often stopping like this and having a little cup of tea or coffee, if you listen, animals might just come to you. And it has happened before. I once had a sighting. We were sitting having our sundowners, and we were all outside the vehicle chatting. We were just packing up, and it was dusk, so it was getting dark, and one of the guests looked and said, "What was that?" And I just saw movement, and I turned behind me, and there was a leopard walking down the road straight towards us. An incredible sighting. We moved, just slowly moved everyone round to the back of the vehicle, and we stood on the railing, and the leopard actually walked down and walked right past us. Very, very happy. And it's so interesting why it chose to do that. I think purely because it knew that we were there, and it decided it was safe and wanted to walk past us and disappeared off into the bush. But an amazing experience. But now those don't often happen, but every now and then, if you spend a lot of time in the bush, you might get sightings like that. It was a very, very nice experience. Alright, now while I sip and taste this tea, let's head to Jamie and find out how her search for animals is going.
Well, Byron, some of us have got to do some work around here. And I'm only jealous because I don't have a flask that is nearly as fancy as Byron's. I do have a fantastic little thermos, though, that was gifted to me by some viewers, and I will be bringing that out on drive in future, is what I shall be doing, as soon as I collect it from my house in Hoedspruit. So if the lions were roaring to the south and we didn't hear a response here, then this lion is not here. I definitely heard one around this area, though. I can't understand how. Obviously the ground is quite hard, we've spoken about that fact, but I can't understand, because a male lion does leave footprints even in the damp. I should have picked up on them by now, but I haven't. I guess the morning played tricks on me and it was further than I thought. I'm going to take Byron's approach. I'm going to stop and wait for a leopard to pop out in front of me. Right. And emerge. They actually don't dislike water all that much. Sometimes you'll see when they go and drink, they are quite careful about where they put their paws. That's more, I think, because of the mud. I don't think they particularly like having mushy mud between the pads of their paws. But we've seen Hosana Shongile dive headfirst into water. We've seen Vutomi do it as well. They're not too bothered by it. In certain areas you'll see... Who was it that showed me the most amazing photographs? I think it was Tristan, of lions actually lying in a river on a hot day. A very shallow part of the river, obviously, because they don't want to run the risk of getting bitten or grabbed by a crocodile, which does occasionally happen. Lions swim across rivers regularly. Southern part of Kruger, the Sand River, the Sabi River, you'll often see pictures of lions making their way from one side to the other. So they don't dislike water as much as most domestic cats do, although I bet there are some of you out there that has a domestic cat that loves water. When I was a kid, we had a friend of ours whose cat used to go and they'd run the tap and the cat would jump under it and have a great time. Tigers, of course, famous for enjoying water, for often lying in water to cool off. And then you get fishing cats, the Asian fishing cat that dives right underneath the surface of the water to catch fish. So, despite their reputation, most felines out here not too bothered by the whole deal. It would be a very difficult existence if they were, because water is such a naturally occurring thing out here, and for young leopards like Hosana and Shongile, it's a good hunting opportunity, good place to practice those skills. While I go and search actively, it sounds as though perhaps Byron's technique has worked and the animals have come to him.
We have indeed. See a cup of tea, and we've got Zebra that joined us. And just moving off into the thicket now. There were two of them that I saw. I'm not sure if there were more further ahead of them. Spider hunting wasp buzzing above my head. You may have heard it actually. Very loud wasp. Cosmic Traveller, you've asked what is my favorite animal to observe. I think I'd have to say elephant. I love watching and spending time with elephant. That's definitely my favorite. What else? Yeah, no, I think elephant would be mine. Really enjoy elephant. Yeah, that's it. So I'll settle on elephant. Craig, what's yours?
To spend time with. I guess out on safari.
I'm going to have to tell Craig what animals we get here because he sometimes forgets.
I don't know, yeah. Impala,
Impala. Craig says impala. He likes to watch and spend time with impala. Alright, Craig, we're really going all out there with that one. But I suppose, no, in a way. Impala are, they're beautiful antelope. But I don't know if... okay, I'll leave it there. I'm trying to see if there are any interesting little birds. Always along this road I find you tend to see quite a few interesting little birds darting around. It's nice and open. There's some large trees and some open little grassy sections. So we do get a lot of birds flying through here. And because of the bigger trees, we might get to see some birds of prey. So, tormented zombie owl, speaking about birds, you asked why don't we see any ostriches, and I don't know why we don't see many ostriches in this area. We do get in the Greater Kruger, we do have ostriches, and there was a few ostriches on Londolozi not too long ago, and I think they're still around there. There are ostriches on Mala Mala, I think they get them too, but in the Greater Kruger there are definitely ostriches. I'm not sure why we don't get them up in this area. Maybe it's too thick for them. Maybe they prefer generally open areas, and I think this part of the Sabi Sands doesn't necessarily have enough clearings. Maybe down on Cheetah Plains you might get ostriches coming through there, and I think they have seen there before. But I don't know. I don't know when last they saw ostriches here. Well, the elephant tracks here, but it appears as if they are going in the opposite direction to us. I'm still waiting to spot a leopard in a tree. I haven't spotted a leopard in a tree for quite some time, and it's very exciting when you're driving along and scanning and you see a tail or some legs dangling in the branches of a tree, maybe in a big marula. Oh, look, two little steenbok. Hang on, don't run. It looks like a male and female. It is indeed. Oh, look at that. Looks like this male's potentially trying to mate with this female. Let's see. See the little male with those two little horns sticking out, and then the female to the left. She does not have horns. This is wonderful. Now the steenbok are one of the antelope that is said to mate for life. So they do stay in pairs. However, obviously if something had to happen to the other one, then they would go and look for a new mate. And they are quite territorial, the little steenbok too. So within the territory, the male, they don't always stay very close to each other. There may be quite a distance apart from time to time. But it's always nice to see the pair actually together, moving around feeding. Beautiful little antelope, little steenbok. And you can see they blend in very well with that long grass at the moment. Off they go. That's a nice little surprise. So Rebecca, those little antelope are not too young to be mating. Those little antelope are full grown. That's how big they are. Or that's how big they get. It's a full grown pair of steenbok, male and a female. So they're not too young at all. Those are adults. Believe it or not, that's the smallest antelope we get in this area, in this part of South Africa. The steenbok. The duiker is slightly bigger. I think when you see them, you can tell that the duiker. In some books, the sizes vary slightly, but from what I've seen, definitely the steenbok is smaller than the duiker. But those are the two smallest antelope we get in this area. Now, James, I know, was very, very jealous earlier that we got to have a cup of tea. I don't think anybody's brought him any tea, but he's got flowers and insects and all sorts of wonderful things around him in the tent.
I'm sitting here on the ground next to the plant that keeps on giving, whose name I've said so often I'm not even going to say it again today. But it's got a whole lot of spiders on it. And while you're looking at that rather remarkable shot that David is creating for you, I must tell you that I'm sitting now sort of just outside the tent in amongst the grass. And there's the sound of one or two insects. I think it must be grasshoppers sort of stridulating through the grass here. The sun is very pleasant, autumnal on my face. And gosh, it's just very pleasant to be alive on a Tuesday morning out here in the wilderness. I'm very pleased not to be doing, as I did 3 years ago, driving towards a lesson, a guitar lesson to give. In fact, I would have started some time ago, and by now I'd be, well, fairly close to suicide. That's not true, but it was slightly frustrating and not quite as pleasant as sitting where I am right now. Okay, so we've got a lot of spiders on this beautiful bush. We had that one that you saw there, and this one here, inside this little home that it's made for itself. Now the original one you looked at is an orb web spider, although it hasn't made an orb web in your view. It was on an orb web when I disturbed it originally and went scuttling off to where it's sitting there. This thing, I think, is possibly the same species. It might be a female of the same species, although the fact that it's created a little hidey hole for itself in this, I think I have seen this before. I think I might be able to identify this one. I'll just give me a bit of time when I'm next off air. So, in fact, it's not an orb web. So there's its little hidey hole, and here's its web where my fingers are. And I think that I can actually identify it. Yeah, give me a second. I'll find it in the book when we're next offline. So that's another one. Then there is yet another one down. I've just seen it. No, I've lost it again. Here it is, David. It's over here on a sort of horizontal orb web. Just there. Can you see that? Shall I move? Let me get out of your way. So that's at least 3 spiders on just one plant. Isn't that cool? Now, Diana, you say, what plant is this? Diana, this is the plant that keeps on giving. It is the plant known as WildEarthTV indica. Why, you might say, does it keep on giving? The answer is, well, it just is so kind. It keeps on giving, Diana, because what it does is it springs up pretty much... Oh, here's a shield bug. It springs up pretty much at the beginning of spring, and it doesn't go away again until halfway through winter. And because of that, it has a huge amount of activity on it pretty much all the time. Now, here's the shield bug sitting in the sun. Remember, it's got a stink gland in between its first and second legs. There it is. Can you see it, David? I don't want to touch it because, of course, then my hand will smell like rotting coriander. He's hiding. He's a hider, this stink bug.
There we go.
Got him there.
Yep.
And I think you get stink bugs all over the world. I don't think this is the only part of the world you get them. And I do remember, of course, I think I've told this story before. I've told most of my stories a few times. But the greatest or the most unpleasant evening I ever spent in a lodge, and I spent a number, was sitting at dinner with some guests who I don't remember them, and that's not because they were unmemorable. It's because we were sitting at dinner at this place that cost, well, let's say, I think the price there now is about $1,500 a night per person. That's $1,500 a night per person. Gets you your bed, a fairly substantial room, quite a lot of very good food, and, of course, 2 game drives. And part of the deal is the very good food. And on one summer's evening, we were sitting devouring yet another magnificent meal, and there was a sort of buzzing sound, and we all looked up. Didn't think too much of it. Then we looked down again and we found that our food had been covered in small black insects, not like that shield bug, and so we didn't think too much of them. We picked a few of them out and we thought, well, you know, that's how it happens when you're out in the bush. And then I bit into one. and I shall never forget the taste of the black stink bug of the low-felt. It was truly and utterly disgusting, and I didn't eat again that night. In fact, I may have fasted for a week thereafter. We haven't had many of those this year, thankfully. Good. While I think about that rather terrifying experience of my life, let's head across to Jamie, who has, as yet, not managed to terrify me as much as the stink bugs.
Well, I guess that's high praise. I'm really relieved that I haven't terrified James as much as the stink bug. I can't help but, as soon as Megan relayed what James was talking about, I immediately got a sort of phantom taste in my mouth, because I know exactly what that tastes like. And my saliva glands started working overtime just at the thought of that particular taste. It is awful. Morning of the steenbok. Now we got a little male. Oh, there it goes. So pretty in that dewy grass. Oh, that's gorgeous. I wish it had stuck around. That would have been a really beautiful image. That's about all I've seen, by the way, since you last saw me. 1 steenbok, 0 tracks. I'm not quite sure where to go now. I thought about going to the hyena den, just in case they decided to come and warm themselves up in the sun, but I don't think so. We've tried so many times to come and have a look at them at this time of morning, and they just don't seem to pop out. Buffalo tracks. Huh. I wonder if there's a herd of buffalo. Michael, you want to know if any of us have checked the other dens recently? The last time I did was about a week ago, and I have been keeping an eye out for tracks. Just hold on one moment. Can I hold that thought? I'll get back to you on that. Giraffe spent the evening around here. I think that was just a baby. It was a baby giraffe, not a buffalo track that I saw earlier. Which way are they going? Giraffe sighting would be nice. Track down giraffe. Can't track down lions. So Michael, the one thing I do is every time I drive on that road, or some of those roads, which I did do this morning, I check for tracks going into and out of the entrances to the den. So far nothing, but I haven't driven Mvubu Road for a while. It's probably very, very muddy, so I haven't been in that direction. So you raise a valid point. I think we should start to check the other den sites. I think Philemon's cut line is still active, but we must be due some more cubs soon. Between Pretty and Madam, it would be around about the right time for them to give birth to their next set of cubs. And Scarback, as far as I know, hasn't had a cub since June that we've known of, and that's June 2015. So, good point. We need to start checking the other dens. I actually check Gwen's den quite regularly, just in case. Well, again, James's question kind of hinges on my last point, whether or not we've had any new cubs from any of the other mothers, because James would like to know, when it comes time for Ribbon to move her cubs, will she move them to a den site occupied by the majority of the clan, or will she keep them separate? I'm not sure. I still am not convinced in my own mind exactly where Ribbon fits in the hierarchy. Yes, of course, she might have inherited, or she would have started by inheriting her mother's status, her mother being Corky apparently, but that it's not a set rule. It's not exactly set in stone with Hyena, so I'm not sure where she lies with the hierarchy. I think she's on her own because she is the only one that has cubs at the moment, apart from Gwen, and I think Gwen, because she's so low ranking, is just avoiding everyone. I'm here now, I might as well go have a look. I'm trying to track Giraffe, but let's go see if the den's active. Oh, hello. Well, there comes our answer. My suspicion, James, would be that Ribbon would join the rest of the clan if some of the other females had cubs. Let's have a look at the lovely blue sky while I chat to Andrew quickly. Good morning, Andrew. How are you? Good, thanks. Hi, guys. Not active.
Very quiet, yes, no. You can see they've been probably there last night.
I know.
No, that's good.
I checked first thing this morning, nothing.
Yeah, maybe they come in and out very quickly. It's quiet morning.
Very quiet.
Yeah, flying around, going over.
There's some in Love, Gari Cutline side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and around Buffels a Cutline. Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to check this out because they say that in the front of the school there's nothing to the south. So I don't know.
With all that rain, they could easily be here.
Yeah, maybe they're in the bomb or something.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Andrew. I better carry on.
All right.
Cheers, guys. Bye. Okay. You've enjoyed a lovely view of the sky. And I've got updates from Andrew. The updates are that there are no updates. We'll just have to find our own updates. Well, Byron and myself set off with such high hopes this morning. We were both going to track down those lions that were roaring. Let's go and see whether Byron has anything else significant to add to that thought. I don't know. Oh, in that case you're still here, and Byron doesn't have any signal. Hold on a second, sorry about that. In that case, Meg, sorry, you're going out of my ear so that I can take my jacket off, because it's warm. I was trying to go for a really inventive and urbane, witty link, but it didn't come out that way. It just fizzled out. Okay, there we go, that's better. And I'm sorry, Final Control, I know you hate this jumper with a fiery passion, but my other one's filthy. So we'll just have to put up with it until the laundry is able to be dried. Alright, well, since Byron and myself are failing relatively miserably at finding you large things, let's go back across to James, who's had far more luck with the littler ones.
I'll tell you what I think I've caught, or what we had there was something called a triangle web spider, but I might be wrong. It really is very difficult to identify them. But this rather clever spider, you can see it's got that triangle shape, which we definitely had on the other spider, and they hold it back like that, and I don't know if you can see there's a sort of loose strand. And when the fly lands in the triangle web, she lets go of the sort of loose strand here, and that causes this sort of spring effect where the web collapses and then ensnares the prey, and she will then scuttle across and stick her fangs into it, injecting large amounts of very venomous saliva, which will in turn liquefy the insides of the hapless prey. What a way to go, as they say. Good. Wonderful. Now, let's have a little bit more of a look around here. Hunter, you said we get fruit spiders. Megan, that's a hint. I didn't hear the question. Can you give it again? Oh, thank you. Hunter, we don't get fruit spiders as far as I'm aware. I've never even heard of a fruit spider. And so what I'm going to do is look in the index of this book under F for fruit and then R, because FR is for fruit, and tell you that there is no such thing as a fruit spider as far as I know. Now, what I would suggest you do, though, if you are truly or very interested in whether we get them or not, just try and give me the family name, the Latin family name, and that'll give us a much better example. For example, that this book can't identify those I've forgotten what we had. What would we call them? Triangle web spiders to species. They can only get us to genus level. So although it looks quite similar, to find out exactly what species it is will be very difficult. But there may well be many representatives of, if not the genus, the family all over the world. And the same would go, I imagine, for the fruit spiders. Now down here, I think what we have, yes we do, David. I'm not going to pick it because it's just too very pretty. And they've just started to flower again for the very last time in the season. And I did do this the other day on drive. It is Hibiscus micrantha. And I think it's going to open up. It's purplish, but it'll open up white into the sun. And if I let it go, you can see that it is now seeking the sun. The plant is seeking the direction of the sun. And shortly, in fact, I wonder if by the time we haven't finished the drive in about, well, probably about 30 minutes, I wonder if it won't be open. We'll keep an eye on this Hibiscus micrantha and see if it doesn't open up during the course of the drive. Right, good. Well, there's one other thing I can show you inside the tent, because our theme of the day seems to be nature taking over the tent. And it's gone. Oh, that's sad. There was an enormous grasshopper living just over there. Oh, that is a tragedy. Oh well, let's go back outside then and see if we can't find him on the grass. Can you just quickly look here? Oh, I can't find one of those, but there's another beautiful acria butterfly there, David. Can you see it there?
Yes.
It is rather special. And these are all sorts of things, from royal to garden to various other acria species, but I'm afraid my grasshopper has eluded us. I shall find him while you head across to Jamie and find out what she is going to find.
I don't know what I'm going to find, but that is, of course, half the fun. I'm instantly reminded, hearing Meg describe James's search for that grasshopper, of Taylor in the tent a few days ago, desperately diving after a grasshopper. And we've all done it, trying to catch them and get them to sit under the microscope nicely for us. We've just been chatting, Andrew and myself, obviously you saw us earlier, and we've been continuing the conversation over the Game Drive radio about the fact that Hosana and Shungile, there's no sign of them to the south of us. So there's a possibility they're around here. With all of the rain, it'd be very, very difficult to spot their tracks. I'm just checking some of their favorite areas in the hope we get lucky. Byron's been doing the same thing. Both of us working on the principle that a leopard might not want to be lying in the wet grass. That's basically all the leads we've got to go on. And then Andrew was also asking me about Shadow. Apparently she hasn't been seen in the last week either. The last time she was seen was crossing onto Djuma in her favorite corner. But I've been checking that whole area pretty much every day and I haven't picked up on a single track. But Shadow does that. She mysteriously disappears, often for weeks at a time. And she likes the really tricky areas. Her territory has a whole load of drainage lines that she disappears into. So whilst I would love to be able to give you more than that in terms of information, I don't know anything else. Our Shadow is now, what is she? She's 10 at this point. So she's getting to the point where she's an older leopard rather than a younger. And Hunter, you want to know, well, how do you go about the process of aging a leopard? The answer to that is sometimes it's not all that easy. We're fortunate here in that a lot of the leopards, there's records of them since they were tiny cubs, which really does help in terms of getting an idea of just how old they are. Now, we knew exactly when Hosana and Shungile were born. Other than that, the best way is to look at the condition of their teeth. You can't, particularly with leopards, you can't look at the color of the nose. You see old leopards with bright pink noses, and they don't necessarily darken with age. They occasionally do, but it's not a set in stone rule. So you can look at the condition of their teeth. You can look at the ears, the scars around the face. Often older leopards have quite tattered ears. Karula is the exception to that. Karula is actually quite perfect looking. She's got a chipped canine, and that's about all. She doesn't have any nicks, or not many nicks or tears in her ears, whereas if you contrast it to Mvula, has got very, very tatty ears. Now that can be an indication of age as well. Well done, Byron. He's managed to find you something very sweet to look at.
Well, I kind of had, Jamie, but they're gone now. No, there's still one sitting over here, Craigie. There's a little dwarf mongoose. Now, Jamie did find some earlier, but they've been very cute and playful around us. They're beautiful. I love these little dwarf mongoose. They are very, very cute. Species of mongoose are indeed experts in killing snakes. One out here that's probably better than the others would be the slender mongoose. Very, very fast, agile snake. Very fast, agile mongoose, and they're able to kill snakes very, very well. Listen to that sound the mongoose is making. See if it calls again. And obviously it would stop. But they, so this species of mongoose, the dwarf mongoose, are very gregarious. There, listen to him. Beautiful sound. Very high-pitched little... Do you hear that? That's their little alarm call. Listen. Now, they are gregarious, so large family groups. Hey, listen, you see, it's trying to communicate with the others. Wonderful sound. That's so cute. That's wonderful. Look at it. Watch. Shouting at us. Lovely light on that little mongoose now too. This is such a beautiful photographic opportunity for a little mongoose. Get some nice photos. So as I was saying, these mongoose, the dwarf mongoose, are gregarious. Large family groups, they'll move around foraging for food together. If a snake had to come in, yes, they will indeed probably attack it or mob it to try and get it away. I don't know that they necessarily hunt snakes that often. The larger mongoose, perhaps banded mongoose, yes, they will. Also very gregarious, large groups. But then like I said, the slender mongoose and the yellow mongoose are very well known for... Oh, there's a roller. I wonder if we can get that, Craig. Sorry, there goes that roller. It was calling. I'm just trying to see. It might display for us. Watch. Here it comes. There it goes. Did you get it there? There it goes. Keep watching. It might do it again. Well done, Craig. Brilliant camera work. Oh, just dropped down. And that's why it's called a roller, because of that display it does. A little bit difficult to see, but you see that as it came down, it did that. So as I was saying, the slender mongoose and the yellow mongoose probably better for killing snakes and hunting snakes. So Preetam, yes, they do indeed. There's a Coqui Franklin calling behind us. Very loud call of the Coqui Franklin. See if you can hear it. Yeah, I'm sure you heard it there. Alright. Well, I think we'll leave these lovely little mongoose. So I guess from these cute tiny creatures, let's go to another cute tiny creature in a tent.
Yes, and we had 3 spiders here. One a jumping spider, one a huntsman spider. Yes, I am actually identifying them. And one an orb web of some sort. But here is the jumping spider, David. It's over here. It's one of these big ones. It looks like a sort of zebra crossed with a bear, crossed with a spider. There. See him there? You got him?
Just point to mine again.
Just there.
Oh, yes.
And that's the biggest jumping spider we get out here. It looks like he's going to jump. I'm going to cover my...
Oh.
He could be on us, David. Is he on my hat?
No,
He's on my body.
I don't think so.
They do give a bit of a bite, those chaps. It feels a little bit like a bee sting, but nothing much more severe than that. I'm now in a state of some terror because he could be creeping into my body. There we have a flag-waving ceremony. How cool is that? That is a flag-waving ceremony of the green wood hoopoe. David, that tree's been pushed over. You noticed that?
I hadn't.
I hadn't noticed that either. That was the tree in which the starlings had a nest.
The tree you sat in.
The tree I sat in, David. Which might actually be easier to sit in now. That's quite convenient. Anyway, that flag waving is a territorial display. And normally it happens between two flocks. There, I can hear the other flock. There is another flock. And so what the other flock will be doing is doing the same sort of flag waving. Isn't that cool? Here, look. That's the same flock. Those are youngsters. In fact, they're now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think they had a nest in this tree as well. Oh, this is wonderful stuff. Diana, yes, it does indeed sound like they're laughing. You said it sounds like they're laughing. Well, that is the name. Well, apparently how they get their Zulu name, which is Guhleka Bafazi, the laughing women. Which, of course, I've seldom heard many women laugh like that, but I think that if I was to hear a woman laugh like that, I would keep my distance from her as far as possible. It's not an attractive laugh. Some women have very attractive laughs, some men have attractive laughs, and some people in general have very unattractive laughs. Anyone who laughed like a green wood hoopoe would fall into the latter category. Let's try and get a bit closer to them. In fact, while David does that, I'm just going to turn the sound off in the tent because I can hear my own voice, which of course is offensive to anybody. I'll tell you what, we'll sneak into the tent actually, and let's see if we can see them from the other side, because we'll be able to hide there. Sorry about the sound. There we go. Yeah, Dave, there's quite a nice view from here. You're caught up, are you? David, don't be caught up. Let me help you. Come over here. Come hither. You see, oh dear, David is now caught on, I see, a large bush. Oh dear, no, hang on. One sec. There really is a really good sighting here. Hang on a second. Hang on, wait one sec. Okay. Oh, David, for goodness sakes, man. I do everything around here. Oh, come here. They've just left. They have just absconded off to just about exactly where we were. Okay, well, I'm going to climb on that tree and see if it still works as a climbing instrument. While I do that, Byron has got something that probably was responsible for that thing being on the ground.
Yes, possibly, James. A big elephant bull. You know, they do push over trees quite regularly. James, don't hurt yourself while you climb that tree. It is still quite wet and slippery out here. Now, I can hear at least 2 or 3 other elephant in the area breaking branches. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's possibly just a few bulls that are moving together in the same area. feeding on all this vegetation. Now this elephant's feeding on the buffalo thorn, and again, I can't believe how they managed to break and tear these leaves and branches off and feed happily on the buffalo thorn without it bothering them. We know those thorns are incredibly sharp. Aaron, you asked, in areas where there aren't as many trees, do the elephant have more diverse diet? Well, Aaron, yes. Well, the elephant have a very diverse diet to begin with. They'll feed on just about anything. So in areas where there's not a huge amount of trees, and the best example would be in the Masai Mara, probably in Kenya and Tanzania, or those areas. Very open grasslands. There's not a lot of thick bush like this. There is in parts, definitely, but in the grasslands, there's there's mainly just grass that the elephants have to feed on. So they have to then just adjust, and they do that. But again, they have a huge range in their diet. They'll feed on just about any vegetation. So, Aaron, yes, it will change, obviously, depending on the area that they are in, but it's not to say that it would necessarily affect them. As long as there is some vegetation around, the elephant will feed and they'll be happy. You also get the desert elephant up in Namibia. Those elephants still manage to find food for themselves. So it all depends on where they are, what they feed on. Shaylin, elephants, and like this big bull over here, can possibly feed on 200 to 250 kilograms of food a day. So that's over 500 pounds of food a day that this elephant would have to eat. A big male like this, obviously the smaller females and the youngsters don't eat as much, but a big bull, yeah, definitely that amount of food, a lot of food. It's because their digestive system isn't very effective or efficient. So a lot of the food passes straight through the elephant. Their dung is very, very coarse, and you can see it. But then that's why they need to feed on so much food. So, Cosmic Traveller, the big elephant bull can weigh between 5 and 6 tons, and then can probably get to about 4.5, maybe 5 meters tall. Now, this male is probably to his shoulder, he's probably 2.5, 3 meters tall, I would say. Maybe a bit bigger. Maybe about 3 meters or so. I would say that's how big this elephant is. But 1, 2, 3.5, I reckon, 3.5. But they can get bigger, as I said. 4.5 meters, a big bull, and we saw a big bull the other day. We've been very fortunate. There's been a lot of elephant activity around the last week. But wonderful elephant activity. I mean, elephants swimming, elephants playing. Jamie had a wonderful sighting yesterday, a lot of elephant around her. The one cow actually got a little bit upset with her for some reason. So you do always have to be careful when viewing elephant. But if you know, and I think Jamie touched on it this morning too, if you know the signs and what to look for, it's very easy to see if an elephant is unhappy. And if they are, just rather leave them alone and move on. There's no need to push the boundaries or try and upset them even more. They give you a lot of signs to show you that they're unhappy. Ali, an elephant is definitely strong enough to pick up a human with its trunk. It can pick us up and throw us around very easily, especially this big bull. Without a doubt, it can pick us up and throw us around. But luckily, this one's very relaxed and happy with us being around, so it won't do that. He's more interested in that buffalo thorn that he's feeding on. Duncan, you know what, I've had elephants come close to the vehicle from time to time, but I've never had them actually stick their trunk in and take anything off the vehicle. And also, if an elephant gets that close, you shouldn't allow it to happen. So often just a tap on the vehicle or a little sound, the elephants do tend to get a little startled and they'll just move on. I did have an elephant once sneeze on a guest. So we were taking photos, and elephant bull was this far, and then started walking closer and came to the side, sniffing around, and then had a little sneeze and blew. There was mucus that came out of its trunk, that's for sure, and kind of just all over some of the guests on the side. But I've never had them actually touch the guests. I had them smell very closely and get close to the vehicles, but I'd prefer not to have them actually touch it, because you never know what could happen. So just a little tap or something on the vehicle, then they'll just back off and move away again. Again, it's that respect thing, and I think you shouldn't push the boundaries too much. You always have to be careful. So yeah, maybe that's why, touch wood, I haven't had any incidents. No, but what a lovely view of this elephant. I'm going to move on and see what else we can find with the last few minutes. And he's going to do the same. He's had enough of us. There he goes. Now, Jamie has apparently got an endangered species. I wonder what it is. I'm guessing a bird. Let's see.
It is a bird. Well, it was a bird. It seems as though fate has decided that we are going to end off our morning the same way we started, with that amazing group of ground hornbills. Naturally, because we wanted to show them to you, they've all disappeared, but that's okay. We'll make a plan. That's why I was so excited this morning that we had them all in a tree, because they are basically, as their name suggests, despite the confusion this morning, they spend most of their time on the ground, and with the grass being as long as it is, it means that they are very tricky to film when they're out foraging. But that's okay, we'll pull it off somehow. They were all in that tree, they've now all vanished. Okay. Come on, ground hornbill. Well, our ground hornbills have descended into the ground. Let's go and find out why James is climbing a tree.
Easy to climb, everybody, and it is in here that I think the starlings were nesting, and they're little wood chips and bits of leaf and bits of elephant dung, actually. That's interesting. Hadn't realized that. The starlings and probably those woodpeckers, those wood hoopoes, have used elephant dung as nesting material, which I think is a very good idea, because dry elephant dung, A, smells very nice, and B, is very soft. Doesn't smell like elephant dung anymore, smells a bit like bird, which isn't great. But all around this dead knobthorn tree that I think was probably pushed over, not by an elephant, I think on closer inspection, it was the wind and the amount of rain that we had that eventually caused this great giant to fall. All around it there are hollow nesting sites, and so the starlings and the oxpeckers and the woodpeckers and the barbets and the hoopoes and various other hole nesting birds would absolutely come and use this tree as a place to live. So I think that's rather nice, and it's very easy to climb now, of course, which is nice. And the first thing I had to do, of course, was make sure, as I climbed up here, that the bark wasn't going to come away to reveal something that might bite me or sting me, such as a scorpion or scorpion. And there we have a millipede, which has been disturbed by my good self. Unfortunately for it, and it didn't bite me or sting me, but I just need to be a little bit careful as to what's going on here, because what I did find, Dave, if you come up to this side, tell me when you can see here. You see where I'm pointing?
Yep.
That is the skin of a snake. So there was a snake living under the bark of this tree, and I don't know what kind of snake it would have been, actually. I'm trying to rack my brain. Not a very big one, but it was definitely a snake living under the bark of the tree. It is not here anymore, which is quite nice for me, but of course not great for you who were perhaps hoping to see a snake in this tree. So that is the story of this ancient knobthorn, which is now unfortunately no longer going to provide much of a stand. And as it's of course fallen to the ground, so unfortunately will it become, well, it's going to rot basically until I fall off it. What are you laughing at, Megan? Megan seems to be finding this whole affair quite amusing, which I think is not very nice. She's intimating with her young laugh that the old man that is myself is not very athletic in a tree. Well, Megan, I might have something to say about that a little bit later on. Oh, before we go to Byron, who apparently is bumbling around, bungling probably more likely, there is a piece of redness here. Can you see that, Dave? Can you see here? I'm not going to touch it because it's meat.
Oh yes, I do.
That is, something has been killed here. And I wonder if it wasn't a bird chick. I wonder if it wasn't a chick from one of those birds that has now been extracted and sort of dropped there. Anyway, that is my story. All right, Byron is going to show you now a duck.
White-faced whistling duck. And James, I think you are very athletic, sir. So if anybody can climb a tree, it's probably you. But don't fall off. We don't have another presenter here to fill your place. Actually, Taylor's here, so it's all right, James. You can fall out. Now, these white-faced whistling ducks, those are sub-adults, youngsters that we can see there. They will still change their plumage slightly. Those are all young ones there. Craig, I'm starting to doubt myself here. Let me just have a look at something quickly. I don't see an adult there anyway. No, there the two adults are. Never mind, too soon to panic. Two adults are just off to the left. Craig, if you go further left, a little bit further. There we go. There are the two adults in the grass. There's a blacksmith lapwing on the left, and then just in front of them, there are the two adult white-faced whistling ducks. Beautiful, beautiful birds. I'm starting to doubt myself. I thought, sure, can't see an adult, and all those others don't look like the adults. And it takes them a while to reach that adult plumage. Those are indeed the ducks. I see a lot of little terrapins bobbing in and out of the dam. Trying to see if there's anything else. There was some impala that were down here and that moved off. There we go. A little terrapin. Its head sticking out of the water. Anyway, I think that's all from Craig and I today. We'll see you all this afternoon. Let's head back to Jamie, who's going to finish up on the show. Bye.
Finishing off the show in quite a special way, I think. We might not have found a leopard or a lion this morning, but sightings like these are equally, if not even more, special. To spend time with endangered species like these ground hornbills, who of course have... Oh, there we go. I was about to say have now vanished, but there we go. one is very kindly allowing itself to be viewed for the last few minutes. Stalking about through the long thatching grass, the yellow thatching grass, searching for all kinds of insects and other things to enjoy as a meal. I'm happy that we've got this group here. I'm hoping they're going to stay here. Now, Neen, you want to know quickly what evolutionary advantage those bright red wattles will have for the birds. The only thing that I can suggest is it's a reproductive thing. So letting the other birds know when they have reached sexual maturity and indicating reproductive status. Kind of like the bright colors on baboons' bottoms or something like that. And they might also play a little role in thermoregulation as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe a little bit like marabou storks. I'll double check for you and get back to you on the sunset safari, because unfortunately it is that time of day where we have to do our farewells, our thank yous, and our sort of roughly Oscar acceptance type style speeches. So a big thank you to Senzor, without whom we could not have enjoyed this morning as much as we have, as well as to Megan. Megs, who's your D2 this morning? I actually wasn't in final control this morning, so I'm not sure. Lou. So Megan and Lou fielding the questions and sending them through, and of course to all of you for sending through those questions and comments and for joining us and keeping us company on what was potentially quite a quiet morning. Join us for the sunset safari though, because you just never know what we might find in the space of a few hours. Bye bye everybody.